Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right. Yeah, according to UCLA's head coach, it's not about the money. It didn't have anything to do with money. Right. Also, NCAA versus House, the judge is threatening to delay the decision. She's not happy about some things. We're going to get into that as well. We're also going to talk about NIL and possible lawsuits. There's a lot going to happen in this show, and we're not going to waste any time. This is a story that just came out. Deshaun Foster, the head coach of UCLA, said, I don't think the money played a role in Nico transferring to UCLA. You got to love it. I mean, that's just classic. And when asked about the money making a difference, he said, I don't see it should, Foster said when asked about how money affects players who are in the transfer portal or considering entering. He said he could have got, and then he paused. He's going to say, well, I'm not even going to speak on it. That tells me that he didn't get paid a whole lot of money to come to UCLA, which we understand is like $1.5 million is the probably best guess. He said, I don't think the money played a role in somebody staying or going. Now, I'm not going to say this is delusional.
But this is delusional.
It has a lot to do with it. A kid doesn't leave a starting role unless it's over money, pretty much. Now, Deshaun Foster, he's done okay. They were, 5-7 last year. He came in after Chip Kelly kind of just left UCLA because they didn't have enough money. He knew NIL was going to creak him, so he left, and Foster took over. And I think Foster kind of got thrown in the deep end real quick, and he's not probably the greatest public speaker because I'm going to show you this.
Football-wise, we're just excited. You know, I'm sure you guys don't know too much about UCLA, but our football program, but we're in LA. It's us and USC. We I'm just basically excited, really. That's it.
Now, what I'm not going to make a whole lot of fun of him over that because, honestly, I remember the first time I did public speaking, it was actually in college, and me and another guy were in there, and neither one of us wanted to do it. And I remember going up the very first time, and I felt my jaw freeze up on me while I was speaking. And when I got done with my first thing in front of like 30 people, I sat down, and my buddy said, oh, you did a good job. I said, I couldn't even feel my face. I was like, I'd almost passed out. And then he went up like 3 people later, and he's sitting up there and he says like 5 words and then he pauses. Dude falls straight down into the table and collapses, fainted out, blacked out. And we went over to him, he's like, are you okay? Okay. He didn't even know where he was. I mean, now he was as nervous as anybody had ever seen. So I think that's what happened to Foster there. He just froze up. Now, fortunately, I've gotten past my shyness.
No way.
In case you hadn't noticed. But public speaking in front of a whole bunch of people, you got to get used to it. So he'll get better and better over time. But anyway, he's living in fantasy land over this money thing. And this nonsense of the Iamaleava talking about, well, you know, they weren't putting good players around Tennessee and preparing him for the NFL and, you know, offensive line and receivers and all that kind of stuff. It's like, but you went to UCLA. Some guys over at ESPN had some opinions on that.
I don't think there's a chance that Nico, who is the 9th best quarterback in the SEC statistically right now, can go to UCLA, win the job, learn a complex offense, and go lead an inferior team to the same heights that he led that. And again, everyone's going to have their side, right? Nico's camp is not going to come out and say, we asked for more money, it backfired on us, and we took a big pay cut. Like, they're not going to say that. So they're now.
But that's what happened. But that's what happened, right?
Yeah. Yes. That's the general. The general tenor is they had been looking for more, and yes, that is the general tenor of what happened. They're going to deny that. They've now thrown scheme fit and NFL preparedness out there. Yes, which you are certainly right to be skeptical of.
That's hot garbage, by the way. The one thing that they have said is that, well, the pieces around him weren't sufficient, weren't what he needed. And UCLA is. This is a colossal miscue by the entire Iamaleava camp to do this. Now, Does it mean that he can't have success? Does it mean that he can't turn this into a positive and be fantastic? Of course it doesn't. But what they did was put up an unnecessary hurdle.
Just to put a coda on the NFL draft Tennessee piece of it, Hendon Hooker was the 68th pick in the draft in 2023. He was coming off a torn ACL. So he's basically the 68th pick in the draft with a redshirt year facing him. So there's plenty of recent empirical evidence that a successful quarterback with multiple years in that system, who has a lot of arm talent like Nico does and like Hendon Hooker does, can go in the NFL is going to look at that system and say, okay, this translates. This isn't Baylor 15 years ago where people are like, oh, we can't draft that guy. Like that system doesn't translate. It's just the world has changed. The NFL looks a lot more like college now.
Yeah, so that's everybody sees it that way. There's very few people out there that are sitting here saying, oh, yeah, this was a great move by Nico, and it wasn't about the money. It was scheme fit, or it was about the pieces around him. I'm sorry, UCLA does not have the talent surrounding Nico that Tennessee had. Tennessee went to the playoff last year, and it wasn't solely because of Nico, and it wasn't in spite of Nico. It's because they had a really good defense, and they were able to run the ball. When you run the ball in the SEC, guess what? You got to have a pretty good offensive line. You got to have pretty good running backs. And it's just the way it is. So that's just a measly, pitiful little excuse. Now let's talk about NIL. As you know, Arkansas is pissed. They want to go after Madden. Madden shows up for spring practice. That's all he did, and then left. He didn't play a single ball game, never fulfilled his obligation in his contract with NIL, and they want their money back. And I can't blame them. So it sounds like they're going to go after him. Now, a year ago, everybody was like, oh, no, you can't go after a player and try to get your money back. That would look bad. People are sick and tired of this crap. They are mad. And I can tell you from the 10,000 comments that I've gotten over the last 2 weeks over this, people don't care. They're tired of the players coming and going as they please. And here's the thing. Do you think if Arkansas would have told Madden, we've thought about it and we're just not happy with this situation. We're not going to pay you anymore. We're just going to ignore the NIL contract and you can just go away. What do you think would have happened? Do you think Nick and the Iamaleavas would have said, oh, okay, we understand. Thanks for what little bit of money you gave us. No, they would have sued the crap out of them over this.
You're out of order. You're out of order. The whole trial is out of order. They're out of order.
So honestly, these NIL collectives are going to have to start playing hardball because the players they definitely are. They're coming and go as they please. They don't care what they sign. They don't feel like they have to fulfill anything, but you have to fill your side of it. You've got to totally pay them every dime that was agreed to, but they don't have to fulfill. And the same thing with Nico. Don't be surprised if Spire Sports says, you know what? You signed an $8 million contract. You've received $5 million. You've damaged us. You didn't fulfill your contract. Don't be shocked if something's done over that. It wouldn't surprise me. And that may be what has to be done. Since we don't have rules, we do have contract law. And if you go into a court of law in Arkansas, for example, Fayetteville, over this with Madden, they're probably going to say, yeah, you owe what's in this contract. That's just the way it is. So don't be surprised if you don't start seeing a lot of the collectives saying, we're tired of getting kicked in the face. We're sick of this crap. And if you sign this, we're going to fulfill our end of it. But you got to fulfill your end of it. It's not a one-way street. So that might help with some of this. Now we're going to talk about something that could also sort of clear some of this up a little bit, and that's House versus NCAA. This is something we had hoped would be decided sometime shortly after April 7th. Well, the judge is not happy about a few things, and she is threatening to delay the decision, which is going to upset everybody. And what she's upset about are roster limits and, of course, walk-ons. And what she's saying in here is Claudia Wilkin, who's the judge, she's issued a deadline of 14 days to reach an agreement on the gradual implementation of roster sizes or risk outright rejection of the landmark settlement. And what she wants it grandfathered in, meaning, the 105 limit. Well, most teams have way over 105 players because they have a whole bunch of walk-ons, preferred walk-ons, gray shirt, red shirt, all this different labels. And there's a bunch of guys who are going to get kicked off the team. And walk-ons are your energy guys. These are guys that really want to be there. They're busting their butt. They don't have a scholarship. They're not getting paid a dime. They just want to be on the team and help out. And they're just good dudes who, you know, they want to put on that jersey and give it all for their team. And the judge sees that. And she doesn't want to see 15, 20, 25 guys get thrown off the team at various universities. So she's wanting to grandfather it in over probably 3 to 5 years, something along those lines, so the current guys don't get creeked. And the attorneys said, our focus continues to be on securing approval of this significant agreement, which aims to create more opportunities than ever for student athletes, et cetera. So it has everything to do with the 105 players, and that a lot of schools would have to cut 20 or more players. So I think they'll get this fixed. All they've got to do is put a grandfather clause in there and go, you know, it's 120, 115, 110, 105 until it gets to the 105. And that should settle it and work it out. The schools want it to be 105 because that will cut down their costs, because they're going to have to give scholarships to probably the entire 105. Not to mention the fact they'll be getting paid up to $20.5 million in revenue sharing. So the 105 makes sense for the school, but the judge is sitting here looking at the kids that are currently in there and saying, no, you're not going to throw them off the team. I'm not going to allow it. So I definitely think this will get worked out, and I think everybody should be happy with the grandfathering this in. So look for this to get moving pretty quick now that the judge has given them a 2-week deadline. Surely they'll get it done within 2 weeks, and then she can allow it, and we can get on with this thing. So anyway, did want to cover all this stuff. Of course, the nonsense, they're just trying to save face out there. And I'm going to tell you this. I want to take a minute to explain this. What Nico and, well, Madden to some level, but really Nico has done, he's turned the public against him on some level. And you've really felt that. You know, I've definitely felt it in my comments. You know, I spent a lot of time in there, and the number of comments from so many different teams all across the country that are actually supporting what Tennessee did. And they're like, they're tired of this. They're tired of players just doing whatever the crap they want. They don't care about the team. They don't care about the fan bases and all the support they've given them. They don't care about any of it. It's just, give me this, is what it appears. And here's what they're not thinking about. And this is the cautionary tale. Let's say you make it in the NFL. Well, guess what? There's going to be a ton of opportunities during that time and after to make money as a celebrity football player, which is a very valuable commodity. You can see what Tom Brady's getting, $25 million a year to call games. And you can do commercials. You can do local commercials, especially if you're popular, like he could have been in Knoxville or in all of Tennessee. And here's the thing. Vol Nation is millions of people. They don't like Nico very much right now. And what about all the rest of the country? They're all seeing it as, you know, kind of a prima donna. And that makes you less marketable. So not only has he cost himself $1 million, he's hurt himself at the NFL draft because they're going to think, oh crap, I got to deal with this team. And maybe he's difficult. And then on top of it, he's going to have less sponsorship opportunities to make big bucks and go out and do the discount double check for State Farm. So this is a lose, lose, lose all the way across the board. I don't see anybody winning in this. And Nico might be the biggest loser. Now, Tennessee has been hurt this year. There's no question. Because had he left in December, we could have gone out and had our pick of 20 guys. We've got a guy who might work out. Look, I'm hoping Joey goes out there and balls out. But we're not as in a good a situation as we would have been had we had an opportunity to find somebody, or if he would have just fulfilled his contract and been a, team player, or if he would have just never come here and we'd have got somebody else. And I think that's what Arkansas is mad about. They're like, we spent a lot of time and energy getting you over here, Madden, and you're kind of our future at quarterback, and now we've wasted all that time and energy. And it reminds me a lot of the Lane Kiffin. Now, what Lane did to us, he cost us 5 years. He put us in a bad spot for 5 years because we went and got that dadgum guy from Louisiana Tech, Derek Dooley, who was like 4-7 that year. But because Lane left the day before National Signing Day, we were stuck, and we had to quickly hire somebody at the absolute worst possible time. So we got stuck with this Dooley cat instead of having an opportunity to actually go out and do a coaching search. And that really hurt Tennessee and hurt the program and put it on a downward slide after we had been really good for over a decade, including a national title. Now, this won't hurt near as much as that did, but it's the type of damage that can be done to a team and a university because that position is not easy to refill, especially in the spring portal. So again, cautionary tale. Should you invest a ton of money in a guy at quarterback if he can just leave? That's why these contracts need to be binding, period. And if you have to, do something about it legally to make sure people fulfill it, that may be what needs to happen, because this is ridiculous. What happened, it should never happen. And Tennessee's been hurt. And unfortunately, yeah, he hurt himself, but he also hurt the university, and Arkansas is feeling the pain right now. So anyway, hopefully this, gets worked out to a satisfactory manner, and this NCAA thing helps with a lot of that. But I'm going to tell you what, this has been a crap show. That's what it's been. Let's just call it what it is. And the more I think about it, the more irritated I am by it. It's very unfortunate. And again, nobody wins in this. Nobody. So, wanted to drop that little bit of sunshine on you today. Man, I hope Joey just balls out this year. God, that would be so much Captain Justice. And he might. He might. I can tell you this much. If Captain Justice is around, he'll be lifting him up, and Tennessee will win a lot of ball games. So anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, 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 hit this little button right there. It won't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here's the most recent video, YouTube. Thanks, you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.
Part in the waters of the medulla oblongata of mankind. A damn good song, wasn't it, Dora? You like that song? All right.